Good afternoon, everyone. This is Ryan Dalglish with the Chief Operating Officer of the Air Barrier Association of America. Welcome to our launch webinar of the Certified Air Barrier Specialists. We are very excited for this. It's been a long time coming, and we're excited to share that with you. Prior to get going, just a couple different housekeeping things we're going to go through. For the duration of the presentation, everyone's just going to be muted. That just allows to make sure that we don't have background noise or things like that. At the end, there is going to be a question and answer period. The best way that this is typically handled is electronically, so you'll have the opportunity to type in your question. I will then read it out to the presenter, and we can go through that question. This is about an hour in length. If we are not able to get to all the questions, we will make sure that we respond appropriately to everyone that asks. And if there are a number of questions, we can continue to answer those. We know everyone's time is precious, so if you're able to stay on and want to learn more about some of the questions, please feel free to do so. If you need to sign off right at the hour, that's fine too. And we will just make sure that we're communicating all the information to all the attendees. So prior to passing it over to our presenter, I just wanted to introduce our chairman of the association. It's Mr. Brian Strike. He works with Tremco, and I'm just going to have him do a bit of an introduction and introduce our speaker. So Brian, I'll pass it over to you.
Thanks, Ryan. Hello, and thank you for joining us today to learn how you can set yourself apart from your competition. It is my great honor to introduce to you today our presenter. This Southern gentleman is a past chair and our current executive advisor for the Air Barrier Association. He is also the only person to hold the Certified Air Barrier Specialist certification, which he likes to remind us of when he can remember. Without any further ado, it is a great honor to introduce my mentor, friend, and truly an industry expert, Mr. Roy Shuffle.
Brian, thank you for that very kind introduction. Deeply appreciate it. And I also appreciate your support over the last 6 years for this certification program. And next slide. With that, everything going on today is the culmination of 6 years of efforts by a variety of people. Brian Stroik, Russ Snow, in their position as chair people, have very much supported this effort. We have had total support from Laverne, Ryan, and Crystal Dalglish in the development of it. We had an outside firm, IMR, in Grand Rapids, Michigan, Carol and Stephanie, who really helped us out along the way. And I would be remiss if I did not give a shout out to Craig Wetmore. Craig Wetmore is the president of York Flashings. He's also on the executive committee of ABAA and the secretary of the ABAA. Without his help, we probably would not be here today. So with that said, 6 years of effort went into this. This is a top of the line certification. Next. The evolution of air barriers has been very, very interesting, and it came about differently than other evolutions of product technology. Came through in both Canada and the United States. A lot of the air barrier technology was driven by code and science. Back in the 1985 era, Canada began to require air barriers. The first air barrier requirement by code in the United States was the State Energy Code of Massachusetts back in 2001, which is where it began in the United States. And although it was required at that time, air barriers and their technology and the use of them had some shortfalls. Next. At that time, there were no qualifications truly for materials, i.e. assemblies, contractors, or an air barrier trade. And, you know, it's only 19 years since this came about, and we really had to get going doing a variety of things. When this came about, the 2001 code, this came about in Massachusetts. We began to look at, as an industry association, look at certification of installers and accreditation of the contractors, the most critical aspect of the work that we were doing. Later on, in the second half of 2000, era, 2006, 2010, we began to develop methods to evaluate materials and, most importantly, assemblies. The ASTM-E, as an Edward 2357 standard, was our greatest leap forward in technology as far as being able to judge or appraise the performance of air barrier assemblies. Here we are 10, 15 years later. We now have the opportunity to certify air barrier specialists. These are knowledge specialists. And in that, in order to have a knowledge specialist, you've got to have a testing protocol. Next. What is a certified air barrier specialist? Basically, it will be a trusted, knowledge-based advisor to the architectural, design, consultant, specifier, and general contractor community. We have not had this before. We have had a variety of people who appear to be experts. We have a variety of people who do an awful lot of authorship, but there's been no basic standard or tested protocol or tested person or tested knowledge that a person could rely on as a third-party source. So like anything else, stability in our business and technology requires the three-legged stool approach. So we do now have the manufacturers with their evaluated assemblies. We have the contractors who are certified and accredited. We have now developed and evolved to having a certified air barrier specialist. Next. Basically, a CABS person, you want to become the Wikipedia for air barriers. Your knowledge is going to be tested, and you're going to be required to know everything about all the air barriers out there. And you need to know what's going on, how to apply them, how to work them. So you're going to have be measured on your in-depth knowledge of proper design knowledge, ensuring correct specifications, ensuring correct installation, and testing protocols. Also, if they're part of the Air Barrier Association of America Speakers Bureau, they will be able to present to you unbiased industry learning units throughout the course of the year or 2 years. Next. One of the other benefits of the Certified Air Barrier Specialist is you're going to be able to elevate yourself and the perception of yourself by industry members to other esteemed certifications, such as the LEED AP and its various subgroups, Spray Polyurethane Foam Alliance. CSI has a variety of materials out there. You have the Certified Contract Administrator, Certified Construction Product Rep, Certified Construction Specifier, all those. And now you have CABS, Certified Air Barrier Specialist, joining the ranks of those very prestigious programs and certifications. Next. The benefits to a CABS is that this person will be able to demonstrate unbelievably comprehensive air barrier knowledge. And the testing protocol, the exam, and your knowledge will be based on materials, methods, and details, project design, on-site testing, and construction site requirements. Pretty much all equal, somewhere in 25% range each. Next. The knowledge areas you're going to be dealing with, per se, in the materials, methods, and details. You're going to have to know building science, air barrier details, as importantly, air barrier materials, accessories, components, and assemblies, and how all that is put together. And you will also be evaluated on your manufacturer's corporate responsibility to the industry. Next. Project design areas are critical for the CABS program. Air barrier design, project specification, building codes, and this is a big one. Building codes with regional and industry standards are going to play into your knowledge base. You've got to maintain that knowledge. You've got to share that knowledge. Next. Other areas like the on-site testing is a critical area because once you put an air barrier on, it's going to be covered by something else. So on-site testing requirements have got to be part of your knowledge briefcase. Air barrier project audits are also carried out. They're carried out by third-party quality assurance people trained by the ABAA, and ABAA does have that separate quality assurance program. But as importantly, you're going to have a variety of consultants out there that will be doing the commissioning of air barrier systems, be looking at the air barrier systems. And bottom line, to make the building function properly and to have the greatest amount of energy savings that we can, we're going to have to correct the air leakage paths. And that will go back to the earlier ones, as in, on-site testing and correct detailed design. Next. Construction site requirements. As they say, where the rubber meets the road. You need to know air barrier installation requirements. You need to share that installation requirement knowledge with design professionals. You have to go back to the ABAA material listing requirements and the evaluated assembly requirements. And as importantly, you need a good working knowledge of contract documents to know where you can and cannot enter into discussions and design. Next. So, what is your examination prep? It's fairly simple, and I do need to give you a word of caution at this very point. You are going to be measured on those 4 segments of the CABS donut, so to speak. It is very unlikely that you will pass this examination without the study manual. We have already done our beta testing. Some very, very knowledgeable people in our business scored between a 74 and 79 on this exam. 80% is passing. The beta group of testers, and I thank them for volunteering, did not have the study guide. Once they have the study guide, no doubt they will pass the exam, but you need the study guide to pass. Next. Where else can you get information? In addition to the exam study guide, please go to a blog site called Let's Fix Construction. There's quite a bit of air barrier information at that site. There's a variety of information on manufacturer sites, but third-party information will exist on Let's Fix Construction. You do have the ABAA on-demand webinars that you should be looking at, reading, studying, and the ABAA live webinars. Although in this COVID era, that's a little bit tough, but we're still doing webinars online. The in-live presentations are pretty much dead at this point. No box lunches, in other words. You should also go back and take a look at the old newsletters from the ABAA. There's contractor newsletters and there's the industry newsletters, both excellent sources for your examination preparation. Next. What is the exam format? Well, this is pretty good. It's a 4-hour time limit on your exam. Depending on how you're set up, it'll take you about 15 minutes to register for the examination. Your exam time doesn't start until you start the exam. So your prep time or your registration time is not part of the 4-hour exam limit. Please note that this is also a proctored exam. You will be sharing your camera. There will be eyes on you. It's a third-party proctoring organization the ABAA has contracted with, and they will be looking at you through your own camera as you're doing this exam. Understand also that unlike many other quote-unquote certifications in our industry, this certification has the highest ratings in that it is ISO 17024 compliant, which is what many government organizations do require of certifications. This International Standards Organization 17024 is a very, very high-end certification for this examination and for the CABS itself. You will be required to have an 80% plus passing rate, and that is part of the performance attributes of the CABS that we have established. Next. This is just a sample question. You all can read it. You should be able to get it, but the way the test is derived, the exam is put together in today's world, it's called a psychometric test. And that means they're going to be measuring your knowledge on this exam, not your memory. They want to measure your knowledge and how you think through to the end of a problem. So it's not like back in the day, way back in the day in some cases, where you had to memorize a bunch of ASTM numbers and a variety of other things. Again, it's going to measure your problem-solving ability and your knowledge. There will be one question. There will be 4 answers to that question. Only one answer will be correct. Again, only one answer will be correct. Next. The pricing of this program is listed right in front of you and available to you online. And the member pricing and non-member pricing is different, just like every other organization's. You can retake the exam rather rapidly if you are so unfortunate as to not pass the first time. And you will receive a photo ID card listing where you will be labeled and listed as a certified air barrier specialist. Your certification will also be listed at the ABAA website. So people will have a variety of ways to judge whether or not you are a CABS. You will have your photo ID, you'll be listed at the ABAA. 2 sources of reference for your use. Next. Steps to achieving CABS, pretty easy. 1, take a look at the overview of the Certified Air Barrier Specialist. Number 2, register. There's a registration form that will walk you through everything. And number 3, you take the examination. A word of caution about your computers. If you are using a Mac computer of some sort, an Apple computer, you're going to have to download Google Chrome. And that has presented minor problems, but just be aware of it. Your best bet is to use something on a Microsoft system. The information flows much more easily, easier registration, no downloads. You go in and take the test. The proctor will be set up with you, and as soon as you begin when you schedule your exam, you can begin immediately. The proctor will be there. Next. There's the finish line, folks. Short and sweet. You will receive, when you pass, you will receive this plaque. You can hang on your wall, hang anywhere you want, but it will be your certification. And remember, you'll also be receiving a certification photo ID card. I will tell you, I have other certifications, as you can see by this listing. The CABS certification is the gold standard of the certifications in our industry, whether it be AIA, CSI, or other groups out there. This gold standard is basically established by our compliance to ISO 17024. It is a very high-end certification, one that you could be proud of for many, many years. Again, this is not a quickie certification scheme. This thing has been in development for over 6 years. And we know we've beta tested everything. We ran a lot of people through this as far as the electronics are concerned. Everything appears to be working. Next. So I want to thank you for your time and attention this morning. I am available at this point to take any questions that you may have. So feel free to electronically submit your questions. Ryan's going to read them to me because Ryan's probably 2,000 miles from me, and I'm down here in San Antonio. So any questions you have, let's go. Ryan, do we have any questions?
Yeah, we've got a couple coming in here, so we're just going to go through them sort of one by one. And so the first question for you, Roy, how many questions are on the test?
There will be an odd number of questions between 151 to 201 questions on the exam. Each exam is a little bit different.
Okay, thank you. The second question. They're coming in fast and furious here, so and I can maybe help with some of these too, Roy. So it says, what if you do not have a camera on your computer? Is there another way to take the exam?
There's a quick and easy answer to that. No.
So just my input into that, we have looked at our annual conference at allowing sort of a classroom setting exam. At this point, with the current COVID crisis, we've had to go to an online process. So next one, are there any recertification requirements, Roy?
Yes, there are, and that will be in your handbook, and you will have recertification requirements based on AIA or ABAA learning units.
Okay. Next question, is it an open book test?
No, unfortunately, no, it isn't. Um, Having played football for an extended period of time in my life, I like open book tests, but this one is not open book, and that is the reason that it is proctored.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Perfect. Um, Next question, where can I find the study guide?
Study guide will be part of your registration process at the ABAA website, as you see here on the final page. Just go to CABS at airbarrier.org.
Okay, perfect. So at this point, it will be a digital downloadable PDF once you register for the program.
Thank you.
I guess this ties into it. Where can I find the study guide? You will find it once you log in to register. It will be a downloaded PDF file. Next one, Roy, any continuing education required for renewal? Is renewal every 3 years or 5 years?
Actually, renewal is probably going to be, well, you're going to renew every 2 years, basically, and you'll recertify every 6.
Okay, next, is there a time limit between when you register and when you take the exam?
That could be answered a variety of ways. When you register, you can establish your own time. You could set, say you register, you pay for the exam, you get your study guide, and you can wait 3 or 4 weeks at that point to take the exam. You have plenty of time to study, and I do urge you to study.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, there isn't currently a time limit between the registration and taking the exam. So hopefully people don't feel like they need to be rushed or do it on a specific day. So we've tried to build in some flexibility with that. Next question, are there any prerequisites to take the exam? Do you need years of experience?
No, there are no real prerequisites. It's advised that you have a few years of experience in air barrier technology. Enclosure technology would be a better term. But there are no no learning unit prerequisites, nothing prescriptive at that point. Again, this certification is knowledge based, and your studying and reading will lead you to that knowledge. And understand, again, it's a psychometric test. They're not going to test your memory. They're going to test your knowledge and your ability to think through using that knowledge.
Okay. Um, for I guess recertification, going through that program, do people need to write another test, or is it just maintaining continuing education units to maintain your certification?
Great question. It's maintaining your learning units and submitting them to the ABAA. There will be a submittal process for your renewal of your certification. Um, I'm 70 years old. The one thing I never want to do again is take another exam. So I make sure that all my learning units are up to date and get them submitted about a month before your certification expires.
Okay, perfect. Next one, what is the market outlook for this certification? Do you expect it could be a requirement in a project?
I do expect it to be a requirement in the project. Um, we know there's preferences from government institutions already for these type of certifications. It is the intent for many people in the business to work with specifiers and architects and have that placed in the specification documents itself as one of the quality assurance parts of the document.
Perfect. Um, Next one. So the question is, are people just to study on their own and there won't be learning sessions, or will there be opportunities for people to attend courses to prepare?
ABAA will not be running any courses in that regard, but if a local group wants to study their own, form their own study group, that's not a bad idea either, either in-house or external. But the ABAA has got everything that you need to know on the website as far as the newsletters, the articles, and the ABA live or pre-recorded webinars.
Yeah, and to follow up on that, just for a heads up for people, ABA is currently in the process of creating a learning library with a number of pre-recorded webinars and looking at some self-directed courses. Other references or places to go that provide good building envelope education is if you have a local building enclosure council. They do a lot of good work specifically focused on that type of information. So there definitely are areas people can go to for education. The plan for ABA is we'll put together a list of readings and other programs that you could take to help support. Okay, so I'm going, some of these are just duplicates. It says, will all the test questions be answerable by studying the manual alone?
Possibly. Remember, there's several different test schemes within this because of the ISO standard that we're working towards. So possibly, yes, but the outside readings are going to enhance your knowledge and your thought process for the exam.
Okay. Does an ABA field auditor, having them certified and writing their exam, would that help with their knowledge base?
Yes. This is going to help with all knowledge base, no matter where you're at in this business. Quite frankly, I was surprised by some of the things I came across, and only because you assume certain things and those things may not be correct. Is it good for our QAP people or quality auditors to be CABS certified? I think it is, but that's an individual decision. Our QAP people are already very highly trained and third party, but if I were a QAP dudette, I would definitely look at becoming a certified air barrier specialist. It adds to your resume, and let's face it, it adds to your opportunity in a possible consulting capacity.
Okay. How many continuing education credits are needed for the renewal and the period of the credits?
I believe it's 5 a year at this point, and they have to be germane to the building enclosure business. And very straightforwardly, you go to the ABAA annual meeting, convention, trade show, you're going to pick up all the learning units you need at that time.
Okay, perfect. Just to add on to that, there is a certification handbook for candidates that are interested that will lay out this information and will be something that will be available. Next one, is there a recommended minimum time for studying the material, and how long do you think it would take for someone new to the industry with basic knowledge to complete studying?
Wow. I'm going to answer that 2 ways. If you're freshly out of college, new to the industry, right out of school type of thing, you're used to studying. So you're going to have a shorter cycle than someone like myself, who had to first learn how to study all over again and then pursue the exam. So I think a month of studying and reading, intense study and reading, would give you the knowledge base that you need to stand a good shot at passing this exam.
Okay. Is there an availability to just get the study guide without signing up for the exam right away?
I don't think so. But we can look at that, and let me make you aware. the registration and everything does not go live until Monday morning. The one thing we wanted to make darn sure of is we had all the electronic glitches out of the way. And this is something we could look at as a group. We have a post-mortem tomorrow. We'll go through the questions again. This is an excellent question, and we'll have a better answer for you next week.
Okay, next question. Will other building science courses be acceptable for credit?
If they are AIA, IIBEC accredited, absolutely.
Okay, next one. If someone is CABS and it is a requirement within the specification, would that add any cost to the project?
No, it shouldn't. The CABS requirements above and beyond. If you've hired these folks as a consultant, that would be your cost. But a CABS services are, in a non-consultant fashion, they're available pro bono.
Gotcha. Here's a question about renewals. It said it's renewed every 3 years, but it's 2 years. Can you just clarify? Because I know there's a difference between renewing and maintaining your certification and actually going through the recertification process. So can you just go over that again, Roy?
Sure. It's basically a 2-year renewal at this time. And the renewal date will be printed on the back of your photo ID card. And it's really, your renewal will run till December 31st of that particular year that you're due to renew.
Gotcha. Are there scheduled dates for exams like the CDT, or can you just take it whenever?
No, no scheduling. You can take it whenever at your leisure, at your convenience. Once you schedule it through ABAA, you can set your date for your exam.
Okay, perfect. Here's another one. If you studied the entire manual, the entire study guide, and memorized it, would you have all the knowledge you need to pass?
Yes.
Next question.
Ryan, I'm going to go back on that. They're not measuring your memorization. I need to keep stressing that. They're measuring how you think through with the knowledge that you have. So you can memorize that book and you stand a decent chance. But your better chance is to know it intimately, to have it as part of your knowledge base, and then take the exam. And anybody can memorize 188 pages. My hat's off to you.
Another one, and I think you mentioned this, when is registration actually opening for the program, Roy?
Monday morning.
Okay, so just a couple more days. Another one here says, does this replace the actual QAP field auditor certification?
Not at all.
No? Okay.
Completely separate.
Next one, is there any kind of stamp that a CABS person could put on documents? I'm assuming maybe this is business cards or websites, if I'm understanding that correctly.
We haven't given that a thought. We thought the certification on the business card alone, after the person's name, would suit that purpose.
Okay, I can add to that. The one thing that we are looking at is what's called a digital badge. If people are familiar with the CSI certifications, they've come up with this sort of new badge that you can put into your email signatures and so forth. So we're looking at that being available. The other thing, Roy, is people can put CABS after their name, just like credentials like lead AP. Okay, so some of these are there. So here's an interesting one, and I think you mentioned it. Roy, how many CABS people are there right now?
There's only one. And I happen to be the one. As I said, this program started out from an idea 6 years ago, and we pushed it and pulled it and got it along. And I took the examination just about 2 years ago, and I did not have a study guide, and I barely passed the exam, but I did pass without a study guide. But again, I'm 900 years old, so I've got a few years of history and knowledge of this business.
Okay, so here's one that it kind of says it's building a little bit on a previous question. Is the target market for the specialist service, so the person that gets CABS certified, to be able to answer questions from installers in the field, the design community, from manufacturers to develop or improve their systems?
Yes. The intent is constant improvement, constant accumulation of knowledge, constant service to the field with the correct knowledge and information.
Okay. Next one, I guess this is just more of a comment. It says there are ABA installer training programs that could enhance the understanding for air barriers and the installation issues. Do you think that would be a worthwhile course for someone to take, Roy?
That's always a worthwhile course to take. It just adds to your knowledge base. It gives you a familiarity with what goes on in the field day in and day out. I've had the benefit of attending Peter Spofford, the guy who does all the contractor training with ABAA. I've attended and presented learning units at those training sessions, and they really are excellent. They truly are excellent. So yes, the answer is yes.
Okay. Do you get to retake the exam if you fail the first time?
You sure do, at a much reduced cost.
Perfect. So again, we just have some questions about the certification validity, how long, recertification, and so forth. So we've gone through that, but a few people have had those questions. So maybe we'll just, that can be clarified to with the candidate handbook we're going to send out. So just to clarify for people, recertification is continuing education unit submission.
That is correct. And again, you can get all those at the annual Air Barrier Association of America Trade Show Conference gathering, and you will requalify very, very rapidly.
Gotcha. Here it says, is the certification open to those employed by construction management firms or general contractors?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Next one, will there be manufacturer information related to air barriers in the study guide? Any known specific questions regarding manufacturers' products in the exam?
Not specific manufacturers questions. The questions that will be out there, for instance, might pertain to a fluid applied ABAA evaluated air barrier assembly. So no manufacturer questions will be in there. These will be neutral questions.
Gotcha, gotcha. Here's another one in regards to, if someone just studied the manual and would pass, but maybe someone's never been on site or saw an actual application of the air barrier to become certified. Does that create an issue with maybe a shortcoming of the program?
They've never been on site, never been involved with an installation, never been involved with writing specifications. They just, for lack of a better word, a bookworm. They might pass the exam, but the odds aren't that good. Is that a shortcoming of the program? I don't think so.
Okay. But I think, Roy, from your recommendation, it definitely is something that having experience and knowledge and know-how of this would help. Is that correct?
That is correct, because again, this is based on knowledge, and it's based on the 4 quadrants of that donut, the knowledge donut that's out there that makes up the Certified Air Barrier Specialist certification and knowledge base.
Okay. Can you just explain again how that you would register for CABS and then access the study guide?
The CABS registration, everything's online, everything's electronic. So you go to CABS at airbarrier.org, one word, airbarrier.org, and you'll see the big CABS logo up there. You click on that, it'll take you right to the registration page. And you just walk all the way through that. You know, just take a look at what you want. Make sure you get the handbook. It tells you all about CABS, and you can decide from there. The handbook is downloadable.
Okay, perfect. Says, will there be any kind of pre-test or baseline assessment for candidates to see what areas they need to focus on in order to study?
No, there's no pre-testing, there's no pre-SAT type test or anything involved. It's a straight out, you know, do it, pass it.
Okay. Next question, and this is a bit of a new one. Will there be sample questions within the study guide?
There'll be enough guidance in there. You'll probably have a few questions within the study guide, but the study guide is written to add to your knowledge to help you be able to answer the questions that go throughout that.
Gotcha. Okay. Here's another one just about maintaining and certification. Will all industry credits count? For instance, AGC, AABC, those types of organizations that offer education.
If the credits are AIA labeled,
Okay.
yes, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the best ways. The other industry credits, if they pertain to air barrier, they may or may not count. If they pertain to a different technology other than air barriers, they probably won't.
Okay. Here's another one. Does the registration fee cover the cost of the initial exam?
It covers the cost. If you're paying a fee, you'll have the exam and the handbook, two separate charges. If you're an ABA member, you'll be paying $495 for the exam, $100 for the downloadable study guide. The handbook is free. So I'd register, get the handbook, take a look at it, and then go back and register for the examination.
Yeah, perfect. So you pay one fee that it covers the initial registration and the cost of the exam and the cost of the third-party proctoring, and that also goes towards the plaque and certificate and so forth. So it's one fee, and that pretty much includes everything other than the study guide is optional.
That is correct.
Yeah, okay. Here's another one. What would be the difference between this certification and the ABA QAP certification?
Two separate technologies. The QAP person has intimate knowledge of how to conduct the test and is taught to conduct the test on the job site. The CABS person has knowledge of the tests. And he can guide a designer or someone towards those tests, but it's a QAP guy who actually does the test. Two very separate disciplines.
Okay, here's another one. Would it be beneficial for a contractor, say a project manager or the owner, to be CABS certified?
That is a group that we believe would benefit a tremendous amount from this, yes.
Okay. Here's another one somewhat similar. Is the certification better to have from a project manager's role who isn't necessarily on the job doing the installing over the installer? So is it better for someone that's maybe in a project management role than the actual installer?
It's going to benefit everyone. It's going to help general construction firms have better bidding, better knowledge of the air barriers. Again, once we put the facade on that building, really too late to do anything about the air barrier unless it's a tremendous it's going to cost a tremendous amount of money to repair. So your knowledge ahead of time is going to lower your liability in the long term.
Okay. Here's another one. This is specific to the ABA Quality Assurance Program and ABA QAP specified projects. Is there a role, if any, that the certified air barrier specialist would be part of an ABA QAP job, or just more of a sort of a general industry certification?
The CABS should be involved on the front end of that project with the architect to provide guidance and specification and quality assurance. And at that point, as it goes into the field, the CABS person may or may not be involved, but he won't be involved in the QAP testing on that wall. But he will have guided the design professional towards that end.
Next one, if someone is an ABA certified installer, would you recommend having both that and the CABS?
In today's world, people do look at the initials after your name. They do look at your certifications. It is part of their quality consideration for the selection of a contractor. So I would say yes, because you may be an accredited contractor in spray foam, but the CABS takes you past spray foam into fluid applied. It's a certification on knowledge of air barrier technology in total, as opposed to a specific approved applicator status.
Okay, within the exam, it talks about building codes as part of it. Will the codes be based on national or local codes or both? And will this be covered in the study guide?
They will be national codes and it will be in the study guide.
Okay. Will there be a list online of all certified air barrier specialists for industry professionals to search?
Yes.
Okay. Will all types of air barriers, so all types of different types of products, be covered equally in the exam? Example, spray foam, fluid applied, self-adhered.
No, they will not be covered equally because each test is a little bit different. There's several different tests out there because that's what you have to do in today's world. They're all going to be between 151 and 201 questions in the 4-hour period. But no, they will not be covered equally. There won't be a breakup based on percentages.
Okay.
With that said, Ryan, there also won't be an overabundance of one technology over another.
Okay, here's another one. This one I might be able to do. So it says, if you don't complete the test on time, will it still be graded? And would the questions you didn't get be simply be marked as incorrect? So that is correct. If, say, an exam was 100 questions, you only did 90, those 10 that you didn't do are basically all incorrect. Once you write the exam, at the end of it, you are immediately provided your exam result, and it will tell you what percentage that you got. So
No,
sorry,
no
Roy.
answer. No, you're good. Thank you for that. No answer is an incorrect answer. We'll tell you that right up front.
Gotcha. So here it says, and maybe this is a larger question, it says, in locations that there isn't a certified ABA QAP field auditor, do you believe that a CABS certified person could perform air barrier inspections? Here it's more talking about rural areas or Alaska that may be underserved by not having local certified ABAA auditors.
CABS people can come out and take a look at your job and they can render an observation report to you. That won't be a problem by any of the folks. But they're not, if you want more than that, they're going to have to be brought on as a paid consultant, or you work out a deal with the manufacturer supplier that the manufacturer has a CABS on board. But they are not to function as a replacement for the QAP.
Okay, here's another one. If I am CABS certified, would that include spray foam as well, or is it all separate certifications?
No, it is the entire globe of air barriers. It will be board stock, fluid applied, self-adhered, mechanically attached, spray foam, you name it, it's in the exam.
Gotcha. Here's another one. How in-depth will the study guide and exam be on testing of the building envelope?
There'll be some questions on that, and the handbook will break that out for you. You know, there's quite a few parts to these exams, and the percentage of the questions in there will vary according to which exam you get by luck of the draw.
Okay, here it says, is this a good certification for a manufacturer's rep that sells liquid air barriers?
It is an excellent, excellent certification for any manufacturer's rep. It raises, truly, it puts you above your competition, and it allows you to speak to various topics. You bring a lot more knowledge. CSI had a program called the Trusted Advisor. My business is 33 years old now. Because of my certifications in CSI and having had the CABS for the last 2 years, I'm treated very, very differently. My opinion is listened to, and my opinion is much more requested than just quote unquote the salesperson's position, opinions are requested, because they know you've got that knowledge base, demonstrated knowledge base through the certification. I wholeheartedly urge it for anybody in this business.
Okay. Here's one I can maybe take, Roy. It says, how long is the study guide? Currently, it's 188 pages. That is downloadable and also on the website to support things like that. There's a lot of free information that you can download from the ABA website, such as articles, specifications, technical guides, technical notes, and so forth. Here's another question, Roy. Has there been any thoughts of creating other certified and specialists like waterproofing, roofing, etc.?
Wow, that's a loaded question. Probably not right now. This was a massive undertaking for ABAA. We wanted to not just have a certification out there, we wanted to have a gold standard of certification, hence the ISO 17024 compliance. We probably won't get into, we're not going to get into the roofing arena. IIBEC has got that pretty well covered with their people. But we do work with the other groups because the roof ties into the air barrier, the waterproofing ties into the air barrier. But at the moment, looking down the road after this 6-year development, I don't see another certification for another few years. At which point I'll be retired and living on the Texas coast.
So this is kind of a follow-up question to that, Roy. It says, will the exam be covering then air barriers in roofing assemblies, and it says beneath slab or below grade?
Some of the details you'll be asked about will include the roof tie-in and the waterproofing tie-in. A few of the questions will pertain to that. But
gotcha.
Getting into roof assemblies or waterproofing technology, no.
Perfect. Here it says, and this is, we've somewhat talked about this before, but would you believe someone like the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Department of Energy, or so forth will make CABS a requirement on their projects?
Okay, that question has to do with the governmental entity making a quick decision. So we can automatically say, not at the moment. Would it be a preference for them? They would prefer that type, and that's one of the reasons, one of the key reasons, we wanted to get the gold standard of certification. But those government organizations, Ryan, that you just mentioned in the question, recognize the ISO 17024 certifications. So they will probably look very favorably upon that, just not require it at this moment.
Yeah, and as a follow-up with that, I know the U.S. Department of Energy, does need that. The issue of getting it as a specification requirement in the U.S. Army Corps or even in other architectural specifications. I would see some value for that, but that would be creating the value for the program. Let me just see. I think we've covered a lot. There's a number of questions that are sort of very similar in regards to recertification and the exam and so forth. So a lot of this stuff will be answered in sort of the candidate handbook that you can download. It's about 20 pages, and it kind of talks about the certification, how many questions, recertification requirements, how the exam is going to work, and so forth. So there'll be a lot of information that we'll be able to provide to people to communicate. There are a number of good resources we have. Here's another one with prerequisites. I think we've answered this, but you don't need to be a professional engineer or AIA member to take the test. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. Okay.
And we established this again, and I know I mentioned it many times. This is a knowledge-based test. We're measuring your knowledge in air barrier technology in total. And the fact that you may or may not be degreed will not enter into any of this performance-based certification. And Ryan, the handbook is a free download, right?
Yeah, the candidate handbook, which says like what all the requirements are, it's very similar to other certifications, and it's a public document. It's going to be added to the website with the program going live on Monday, so it should answer the majority of the questions. And I know there's some work on providing more information on our website too. So having these questions asked today will help us make sure that we're addressing all of those. There's a couple individuals that want the answer to that expansion joint question. If that's an exam question, I don't know if we can give everyone a free one here, but there's been a couple people that have asked.
The answer is number one.
All right, perfect. I think I've done all the questions. If people have any more to submit, please do so now. Again, we will be looking if to answer some of these that come in, and by all means, feel free to reach out to us.
Well, you want to live dangerously, Ryan?
No.
Folks, you are welcome to call me. The name is Roy Shuffle. The phone number is 210-859-3749. Again, 210-859-3749. Give me about an hour after this program to get done when I need to get done, but you are more than welcome to call me with your reasonable questions.
Yeah, perfect. Another question here, we see the candidate handbook, it's from 2018. Is that still valid? Just my comment to that is we have updated it, so there's a new version that will be there. The 2018 version that's currently on the website pretty much is the majority. We've made some just tweaks to it, but if you have that manual currently, it pretty much has all the correct information. Another one here, this talks about the study guide. Can it be shared with another test candidate? Does everyone have to purchase it? Can the study guide be shared with other people? Does every registry have to purchase their own copy? That's a question probably. Now, I don't know actually if we've talked about that, Roy. I think, if you buy a paper copy, you can share it with someone. I don't think we've actually talked about that in regards to if that can be shared.
No, we haven't. I don't mean to leave you hanging, but no, we haven't.
Yeah. Okay.
I have no opinion either way. I don't know if there's any copyright laws involved or not, but
Yeah.
you know.
Okay. I see that it's again, for any of these questions, if we weren't able or if I missed one, know that we're going to download all these questions and can reach out to individuals directly to help answer any more questions. So don't be shy to give us a call. Roy, I'll pass it over to you to kind of close things out. And I think we're good.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. Folks, I do appreciate your time today. Those remaining have devoted an hour to this discussion and sharing of knowledge. I appreciate you all. You have my phone number. If you have further questions, feel free to call me again 1 hour from now. But I urge you to at least register and download the handbook so you get a better handle on the requirements in a written form. And if you decide to take the exam, which you should consider, I wish you the best of luck. And by the way, I do not have the exam answers. So you all take care. Have a great day. And thank you all for your time and attention. Talk to you all later.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.